Welcome to the first ever social distancing episode of the Midweek Rewind. So a little peek behind the curtain here. So I am in the office, and so is Brent, but we wanted to, follow the whole 6 feet guidance thing. So Brent and I are going to try this on Zoom today. So hey, Brent, can you see and hear me? Hi, Brent.
Yes.
All right. So for those of you watching, we might cut in and out. We've had some internet trouble. This is just going to be a grand adventure. So thanks for trying this with us, and we'll do our best to do this over Zoom today. So, hey, Brent, how you doing today?
Doing well.
I think your picture is frozen, so this is going to be a lot of fun. You've got a very, very attractive frozen face right now. We'll just do the best we can here. So we are, as you've hopefully seen on our email and our social media and stuff, we're doing our best to follow all this Sedgwick County stuff. We are somehow deemed essential by the county, which is kind of nice. Doesn't it feel nice to be essential, Brent?
Actually, it does.
Feels very important, doesn't it? So there's a few of us in the office here trying to hold things down, and we're prepping for Sunday, all the live streaming stuff that we're going to do. So it's just, these are crazy days that we're in, but I'm glad that we can find things like this to do where we can stay connected to those of you at home. So thanks for watching us. And as always, if you have questions or comments about what we're talking about, I've got it pulled up here. So I'd love, if you have anything to add to our conversation, love to hear from those of you watching at home. So Brent, how are you feeling these days with all of the latest coronavirus stuff? How has it affected your life, and how has it not affected your life?
I was talking with a friend, and this friend is a pretty strong introvert. And, initially at least, he feels like he's walked into his perfect world. He doesn't have to deal with small talk. He can be in his house, and he's all alone, and everyone minds their own business.
Right.
So at least for now, for him, it's a welcome kind of change into a world suited perfectly for him of being alone. I'm pretty high on the extrovert, and we're 4 days into this, and I just miss people. I miss doing a lot with people or being face to face with people. So I don't know that I'll end up in a fetal position in the corner of a room somewhere shaking, but that's one of my reactions, is my personality of wanting to be with people, and I'm obviously restricted with that. So,
Yep.
So what have been some of your reflections or reactions, Matt?
So I think I'm like a lot of people, where at first I just had no idea what this was. Like when this first started coming out, maybe 2 weeks ago, I didn't really know how big of a deal it was or it wasn't. I didn't know if I needed to be afraid. I didn't know if I really needed to stay at home. Like I was probably on the slow adopter end of just trying to understand what was actually happening. But I think I've come around. Like I know it's a big deal. I know we need to be careful. We need to, change how we live. So I'm not thinking it's a joke or anything anymore. So there's weird things, like everything's closed. We can talk about that. But one of my favorite things, and I wonder if you've seen this too, Brent, is that people are kind of forced to be more creative about things. And it seems like people are more willing to help than ever before. One thing I've loved, I think I spend a little bit more time on social media than you do. So I don't know if you've seen this, Brent, but a lot of my favorite bands or celebrities or whoever, they're doing kind of fun things that they weren't doing a few weeks ago. A lot of my favorite bands are doing live music every day, and they're taking requests from people. Jimmy Fallon's doing the Tonight Show from his basement, and his kids are climbing all around him while he's trying to tell jokes. And so that's kind of fun. And just a personal thing. So my wife Tilly's a music teacher, and one thing she's doing is she's recording herself singing a lullaby to her students every night. And she's posting that on the church Facebook or the school Facebook page. And obviously we're trying to do all kinds of things at church to try to find new ways to connect with people. So it's just been kind of fun to see people try things. And there's just a unit. Someone said that there's just this sense of unity that they haven't felt since 9/11, and I think a lot of people are feeling that. Have you kind of picked up on that also?
Yeah, people are just okay. We got to adjust, and we're all in this together. And so there is just, when I take a walk with the Grants in the evening, and there's someone on a driveway, there's just a friendliness and I appreciate that. I've also just sensed, I'll use a church word like grace. So by personality, some of us are more cautious, and some of us are more relaxed. And I think in response to COVID-19 and all the restrictions, and you hinted at this, Matt, I think some of the relaxed people, they just say, oh, overreacting, and lighten up and smile more. Don't get so wound up. And some of the, the rules people and the more cautious people are saying, well, you don't realize how big a deal this is. And so what's been encouraging to me is I really feel like people are trying to extend some grace and understanding. And when I, on the relaxed side, are in a conversation with someone who's really kind of wound up about it, and they don't want to touch a doorknob, and they're holding their breath whenever they walk by people. I mean, I'm just trying to extend grace. Mm-hmm. And I know they're extending grace to me, because it would be a terrible world, Matt, if everyone were cautious. Mm-hmm. Like we get nothing done.
Right.
Joy. And it'd be a terrible world if everyone were relaxed, mm-hmm. because we do really dumb things. And so we need each other, and that grace on that scale of cautious is encouraging to me.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And so those of you watching, you already know this, but Brent, just so you know, we've lost your video. I'm not really sure what's going on. You're still just frozen. So we'll just keep going, and we'll just look at Brent's frozen face, and we'll keep doing this the best we can. But Brent, I mentioned.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. You just are frozen, but that's okay. We'll just do the best we can here. Like you said, people have more grace, so that's okay. Yeah, I mentioned the, some of the bands and celebrities who are doing kind of fun things. You're kind of in that camp there too, Brent. You've kind of become a little bit of an internet sensation with your daily jokes.
Well, I don't know if it's a sensation, but it's fun to try to bring something to people. It's been interesting. The number of views, or, the comments that I get. It's whatever we can do to bring some joy, and notwithstanding, this is a big deal. Like, this is a big deal. So I'm not saying we don't, recognize the gravity of the situation and people's illness and dying and all kinds of things. So, but it is important that we not let go of joy.
Yep. That's exactly right. So in the midst of all this, we are, like every other church, we're trying to do our Easter stuff right now, and it feels weird to start an Easter series without a bunch of people, but we started our Easter series this past week, and again, it was weird. We recorded you in an empty room, and it just feels different, but usually on the Midweek Rewind, we talk about what your last sermon was and kind of go a little bit deeper. Do you want to kind of give a quick refresher of what the series is all about and what you talked about on Sunday?
Sure. So in the 40 days between Jesus' resurrection and when he ascended into heaven, there are 10 recorded, we call them resurrection appearances. And 5 of those were on Easter Sunday, and then 5 over the next 40 days, for the next 39 days. And so over these weeks, we're just trying to learn some lessons from some of these resurrection appearances. And this week was a story of a couple of disciples, or followers of Jesus, disciples, but not among the 12, who were walking the 7 miles from Jerusalem to Emmaus. They were so discouraged because they just thought their Messiah was dead and gone and no hope. and Jesus walks up beside them, and they were kept from recognizing him. But the big lesson from last week was eyes wide open. Simply one line, I think it's verse 31 of that chapter, that just said, when Jesus prayed and broke bread, their eyes were opened and they recognized him. So my biggest goal last Sunday was simply to encourage us to have eyes wide open to the opportunities around us. This is an unprecedented opportunity, this COVID-19 world, for us to show joy and hope and be an encouragement and look for ways to, be a light in a very troubling time. And so eyes wide open was the big idea from last week.
And again, like you planned this series weeks or months ago, so this was kind of on the schedule before we knew all this was going to happen. And so it's kind of cool timing that we're talking about being eyes wide open to the community around us in this time that we find ourselves in. And we talked a little bit about things that we've seen other people already doing to kind of try to do that. What are some other ways have you thought since then, or as you were kind of preparing, what else can that possibly look like? What should our eyes be open to when we're stuck at home and we're social distancing, and like, what does that look like in these days? Have you have any ideas of what we can do with that?
The commands of Jesus to love your neighbor and encourage and help, and those commands are still there. COVID-19, the coronavirus, doesn't change God's expectation for us to be an encouragement to our fellow man. The medium, the way we do that is radically changed, and I have all kinds of questions of what it will look like coronavirus, because we as a culture are being thrust online. Mm-hmm. For us to connect in businesses, I was talking to him last night. He was on Zoom and different platforms, but he's on Zoom connecting with people because they can't be face to face. And so, for the church, we were already doing online stuff, mm-hmm. but this has thrust us into that, and we didn't have a choice. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
I am curious what it's going to look like later. Mm-hmm. How much are we going to continue to stay at this level of media connection, mm-hmm. With internet and Zoom and FaceTime and emails and whatever? Mm-hmm. We have Sunday classes from our church and groups that are meeting online Zoom, and it's a bunch of square pictures on a screen, mm-hmm. and yet people adjust to that. So what do you think is going to be the post-corona world, Matt, for media? We have been thrust into this world, and I think it's going to change the church permanently.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'll answer your question, but one thing I wanted to say too is I'm curious what non-Christians, like our non-Christian friends, are thinking about how the church is doing things now. There's part of me that hopes that my non-Christian friends, if they see that I'm posting links to, hey, we're still meeting, and hey, not only are we still meeting, but we're doing all this extra stuff, and by the way, we're willing to go get groceries for people if they're stuck at home, and we're trying to support local businesses. And in a way, like, I hope non-Christians see us doing all of this, and they're kind of like, wow, these guys are serious. Like, it would be easy for them to stay at home, but no, they're actually going above that and doing even more than what they normally do. And so it's just weird. It's a weird time, but I hope in a weird way this might show the world, churches that have almost no technology are figuring out ways to place a laptop in the front row and go live on Facebook. And so I hope that the world sees that resilience, and it's kind of a cool thing for them to see. So I don't know. That's one thing I'm thinking about. But to answer your question, I think you're right that we're hopefully sooner than later, we're going to be able to start meeting together again, and that'll be great. We're all looking forward to that. But I also think you're right that we're not ever going to go back exactly how we were before. Some things are going to change. There's going to be more media, video, technology stuff. But it's fascinating. Brent, you and I are on a team here at First and B where we're working on finding ways to reach the next generation. And we've had that team for months. And we've been talking for months about how we need to do more and more online stuff. We need to do more really practical things other than what we do on Sunday mornings to help millennials and Gen Z in this life. And a lot of that meant things we were going to do things online. So we were actually kind of talking about a lot of this before we knew this was going to happen. And so it's in a weird way, I wonder if, God's kind of helping us prepare for what we needed to do anyway, and finding ways to do a lot of this online stuff that we would be pushed to eventually, but maybe we would have done it slower than we're going to do now. Have you thought about that, Brent?
Yeah. This just radically ramped up the transition.
Mm-hmm.
And we were left without a choice. And that sounds like a negative statement. It's not a negative statement.
Right.
But it'll be very interesting what the post-corona world of church will look like. But I am pretty confident it will not look like it was pre-coronavirus.
Yep.
The church will be changed in terms of the media connection with the community of Christians and trying to get the news out.
Mm-hmm.
It will be different.
Yep.
And it will be good.
Yep, I agree. So I know we were going to get this at some point, but we're doing all this church online stuff. We've got a lot of great things for kids, and Kyle's doing a great job with all the student stuff. We're doing something tonight, actually. That was your idea. Again, we're just trying to think of other ways that we can connect people and maybe take advantage of this weird time that we're in. And do you want to give people a quick heads up on what's happening tonight?
Yes, tonight at 6 o'clock, I am interviewing two of our doctors from First MB, Dr. Larry Dirksen and Dr. Troy Holdeman. And we're going to spend, half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, answering a bunch of questions that we've come up with, but it's going to be Facebook Live. And so you'll be able to ask questions. But we're going to say, okay, from a medical doctor's perspective, not someone nationally on ABC or CBC or Fox or CNN, but one of our own, can you just answer some questions? And so we're going to ask questions about testing or about how contagious it is, or what do we do, or how should we react, and medically and as faith-based people. And so it's going to be a great evening, 6 o'clock. Hope a bunch of you can get on, and we put it on our own church Facebook. And so I hope the news is getting out. But I think it'll be a really encouraging time for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it'll be really great too. So I'm glad those guys agreed to do it, and I think it's a great idea. So hopefully that can be just another thing that we wouldn't normally think of doing, but hopefully this will be a helpful thing to some people. So Brent, this Sunday, we've been mentioning this in other places also, but again, just the crazy timing. This is March 29th was supposed to be a really big Sunday. We've been talking about it's our celebration Sunday for the Forward campaign. It was supposed to be the big give. And, for a while we were talking about, well, should we still do that? Should we try to postpone it to where more people will be able to join us in person? Or is it weird to do this big offering when the only option is to do it online? Do you want to talk about what's happening this Sunday? And then also, why don't you let us know what's next for your sermon series, and maybe explain more about the whole Alive thing and where we're going in the following Sundays.
Matt, I know I'm down the hallway at the church, but you are breaking in and out, so I really have no idea what you just said. Can you repeat your question?
Yes. So this Sunday, we've been planning for a long time, was the celebration Sunday, the first big give, and for the Forward campaign. And we briefly talked about, do we need to reschedule it, or do we still hang on and do it this week? And so I'm just asking you to tell us more about what's happening this Sunday, and maybe tell us more about the Alive sermon series and where you're going this Sunday.
Okay, I got that one.
Okay.
And thanks for your patience to those of you who are listening. One of the bigger God is teaching me here is I need to trust Him. There's just a whole lot more that I'm not in control of. There's a psalm, and I don't even know which one it is, but I was just thinking about it. Some trust in horses and chariots, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. And you take that horses and chariots, that's our human control, so to speak. And forward campaign would end up with, and a big Sunday where we reveal the number of commitments and the dollar amount. And this Sunday we're still going to do that, but I can't trust in the security of a building, or I can't trust in everyone now being there on site. I can't trust in the reality that we're actually passing the offering bag, and we can't do that anymore. And so now I'm kind of saying, okay, God, this is all you. And so that has been a good lesson for me, that in this process where we are launching a campaign or a building project in the midst of this, upheaval in our nation, and we just got to trust God. And that's been a helpful lesson for me. So yes, this Sunday is Celebration Sunday, and the celebration part is simply us celebrating how much our church family has given and has pledged. It's a big number, and we're going to reveal that this Sunday. People have been, making their commitments to this 2-year forward campaign. And so that's the celebration part. We're going to celebrate how God has stirred our hearts in generosity. It's also the first big give, where we're encouraging people to give forward, to give in advance, to take a significant portion of their 2-year commitment and give it on one Sunday if they're willing and able. We are hoping that this will be a $400, $500, $600, $700,000 offering. Now, we're not in person. We're not passing a bag, and that pushes me back to trust God. But this Sunday is this first big give, where we're trying to accumulate a significant amount of cash to give us momentum into the building program, where we hope there will be groundbreaking this September or October. So it's going to be a big Sunday, and we got to trust God because it's way different than what we anticipated it would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely didn't see this coming for the big Sunday that we had planned, but we're going to keep rolling and trust God that it'll all work out. And Brent, we can maybe start to wrap up here, but I wanted to get just one of your points from your sermon on Sunday that stuck with me that kind of relates to all this. I think there's a verse in the section that you read about the whole Jesus walking with Cleopas and Mary, or whoever the other disciple was, about them being blinded by darkness. And again, you talked a little bit on Sunday about how we're blinded by light, we're not blinded by darkness. And I think it's just kind of relevant in this conversation, in this world, that I think a lot of people are frozen by fear, blinded by darkness. That's not what we should be doing. So you want to just give a quick recap of that section of your sermon and maybe how it applies to where we're at today, and maybe we could finish up today with where you're headed for this upcoming Sunday during your sermon.
Well, Jesus spoke in all kinds of parables and illustrations, and there, of course, is a physical blindness, and then there's a spiritual blindness. And with physical, if you stare into the sun, you're going to go blind. You can stare into the darkness all you want, and you'll never go blind by staring into darkness. But in 1 John, chapter 2, it does mention this idea of being blinded by darkness. And the word darkness there really means sin. And when I live in selfishness or greed or unforgiveness or we're just mean, or we have an addiction or a bad habit. When we live in unconfessed sin and we're not trying to move into the light, when we are staring at the darkness, we become blind. So if you take 10 Christians who are generally living in the light, yeah, we all sin, but they're generally in the light. And then you take 10 Christians who are they're just living in darkness. These 10 Christians will not see the opportunities God is putting in front of them. They will not see God at work. They will not see people in need. They will not see, because they've been blinded by their own selfishness or greed or bad habits. And part of that just means, Lord, I need to confess my sins, and I need to get out of the darkness, because the sin has blinded me to the world around me, to your call, to your mission. And so, yeah, it's kind of a upside down thought or whatever, that we are blinded by darkness. But that simply means we don't see what God wants us to see, because we've got sin in our life that we're not dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good. So again, Sunday's big give and all that, but there's also, you've got your normal sermon. So you want to give us just a quick heads up on where you're headed with that? It's another appearance of Jesus after the resurrection, right?
Yes. And it's always interesting. It's always interesting how God just overwhelmingly tends to work these things out. But I planned this series months and months ago. But this Sunday, I'm telling the story of a distraught, discouraged, panicked lady who didn't have control of her life, which is a direct reflection of how we're living right now. Yeah. We are in a world that we can't control with the coronavirus. So I'm telling the story of Mary Magdalene and Jesus' resurrection appearance to her, and how he offers comfort, a solid rock, steadiness in a world that seems to be falling apart. Mm-hmm. So that's the sermon, and I think it's going to be really applicable to our world and really relevant.
Yeah. It's crazy how that was your plan all along, and now that's, we didn't know where we'd be, but here we are, and it fits right with where we're living in these days. So it's crazy, but all right. Well, hey, thanks for those of you who are watching. I think we're going to start wrapping up here. I know we had some trouble with Brent's camera, so sorry. Thanks for hanging in there, and sorry for the glitch there. But thanks for hanging with us. We're glad you took some time to hang out with us for a little bit. And again, I encourage you tonight, 6:00. Brent will be talking to Dr. Dirksen and Dr. Holdman. Is that his name? Sorry, I forgot it on the fly here, Brent. Holdeman. Yep.
Yeah. Holdeman. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be really insightful, I'm sure. And then please do keep an eye on our Facebook page. We've got that church online page on our website where we're trying to crank out a lot more ways for you to stay connected with us in these weeks. So a lot of you are doing that YouVersion reading plan, and a new one starts on Tuesday. So I encourage you to join that also if you're looking for a way to read the Bible more while you're home these weeks. And so we just want you to know that we're still here for you. We're doing the best we can to come up with some new and kind of creative resources to stay connected over these weeks. So please do keep an eye on our website and our Facebook page. Again, we'll be streaming on Sunday. Hope to see you there as well. And of course, keep an eye on Facebook and Instagram for Brent's daily jokes. You don't want to miss any of those. We've got some real doozies coming. So keep an eye out for those. So Brent, hey, thanks for hanging in there even with the crazy technology. And thanks again to all of you who are watching. Hang in there at home. We're praying for you, obviously, and we're doing the best to stay connected as a church during these crazy times. So if you need anything, let us know. We've got that care button on our online page. If you need some help with anything these days, we'd love to be able to help you through those things as well. So, all right, I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you tonight at 6, and then Sunday at the normal times. And keep hanging in there with your social distancing. Hope you're not too bored at home. We'll see you next time. See ya.
God bless.